the keynote. Do you want to introduce
Indeed.
the keynote?
Yes, let me do this. Well, you know by now, we're talking about innovation, we're talking about SDGs and research collaboration, education collaboration moving forward. And that's why we said, okay, let's give the floor to two young academics. Um, One from the Indonesian Academy of Young Scientists and one from the Dutch Young Academy. Um, Even though they belong to the category of young, they do have years of experience in collaborating between Indonesia and the Netherlands. So that's why they are invited. And they'll give their views, and I'm very curious to hear about them on how they think we should be collaborating in research and education for innovation for the SDGs.
Okay, so given their experience in collaboration between Indonesia and the Netherlands, as well as their roles in the Dutch Young Academy of Science and also Indonesian Academy of Young Scientists, they will address the issue of how they see the future of Indonesian-Dutch collaboration in education and research. And both keynotes will be live from Jakarta and also from Utrecht to give answers to the questions from the audience. Up first, we're going to have Dr. Lisa Becking. Dr. Becking is an associate professor in tropical marine biodiversity at Wageningen University and Research and Naturalis Biodiversity Center. Dr. Becking, are you already joining us? Give us some reaction.
Yes, I am.
Hello, good morning, Dr. Becking.
Good morning.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Now the screen is yours.
One moment. I hope everyone can see this.
Yep, clearly. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, selamat sore Bapak dan Ibu, serta para hadirin yang saya hormati. And thank you to the organizing committee of Winner 2021 for inviting me here today. I'm really looking forward to this week filled with discussions and presentations. Now, today, I would like to introduce you to an Indonesian-Dutch program that my team is just starting up. And I'd like to use this as an example of how I think that exploration, curiosity, and diversity are really essential ingredients for interdisciplinary research and education, particularly towards attaining the Sustainable Development Goals. So for this, I would like to start with coral reefs. Because coral reefs provide food security, coastal protection, and livelihoods for millions of people worldwide. However, many coral reefs have disappeared due to global processes such as climate change, as well as local problems that weaken the reef, primarily overfishing and low water quality due to such things as sewage runoff. This is a pretty bleak picture, but what gives me hope is that there's increasing evidence that shows that a collapse of an ecosystem can be prevented by altering conditions that can be managed locally. So if we can reduce the local stress, we can make the reefs more resilient to climate change, and it buys us a little bit of time until we get our act together on a global scale. Now, one major force for local change is tourism. And tourism takes on many different shapes and forms, and I'm quite fascinated by this double-edged sword that tourism presents. It can support conservation, finance nature parks, and provide livelihoods for coastal societies. But if left unchecked, it can also be quite a great strain for both ecosystems and societies alike. For example, the recent anthropause due to COVID-19 caused tourism to come to a grinding halt and really laid bare how painfully vulnerable countries are when they rely too heavily on tourism. What is more, when there are a lot of tourists, that generally leads to many toilets, and very few of these paradise tropical island destinations actually have centralized sewage systems and treatment facilities. Now, a common way to conserve coral reefs is through what are called marine protected areas, MPAs for short. And These are basically areas of cordoned off sea with restricted activities. And Indonesia has over 200 MPAs across the archipelago, as you can see here. Now, tourism plays quite a large role in MPAs because prime conservation areas are also typically promoted for tourism. Yet tourism is often neglected in regulations. And that's why within our program, INREEF, our main aim is to understand, manage, and build the resilience of marine protected areas in such a way that it ensures that the ecosystems underwater, as well as the societies above water, are safeguarded in a future of fluctuating tourism and climate change. Now, local collaborators and various stakeholders really identify that there's a need for adaptive management of MPAs, but they also identify that they miss the knowledge and tools to implement this adequately with appropriate indicators. So that is why within the INREEF program, we've set out to identify and develop the tools to analyze how the resilience of MPAs can be measured, monitored, and governed. Now, MPAs consists of interlinked ecosystems, socioeconomic systems, and governance arrangements. And as such, they can be seen as social ecological systems. And so the central research challenge here is to understand the dynamics of the MPA as a whole, where we ask how are social and ecological processes or factors interlinked, and how do they affect resilience? Now, to get to an answer, we have to study different levels, because this MPA is a nice protected zone, but it is ecologically, economically, socially, and physically connected to the region outside of the MPA. And to understand how local and regional stressors can be effectively managed, we need to map and analyze the combination of small scale and regional scale flows, and together these flows will determine how MPAs will respond to shocks. Now, a lot of research until now has focused on the understanding of the effect of single stressors, or maybe only in one system. And what we want to try to bring is an understanding of how different stressors interact below water, at the land-sea interface, and of course, on land. And I'm not doing this alone. This is with quite a diverse team of Indonesian, Dutch, and Caribbean scientists, conservationists, educators, and policymakers from NGOs, as well as academic, private, and public institutions. Now, how do you ensure that such a group with very diverse disciplines and backgrounds actually communicate and interact? You lock them up on a boat for a week, or maybe in a workshop on campus or during field work. But what we really found is that working in close proximity to each other, as well as to the shared problem, really helps to find a common language and understanding. What is more is what we try to ensure the integration of disciplines through the structure of the program, and particularly through the network of PhDs, where we have disciplinary lines, where deep disciplinary knowledge is created that addresses scientific knowledge gaps, as well as the monitoring needs of local partners and end users. And then we have topic lines that really integrate across the different disciplines for a specific target area, or to produce indicators, and to develop governance tools and education. Now, I also think that integration and multidisciplinarity is also ensured by the type of output that you want, or the type of output that you want to create. And in our case, we will develop an MPA resilience dashboard, which will integrate all the data and provide three things. It will provide a comprehensive overview of the MPA status with indicators and signal values. It will provide this transparency of data. So it will also be a decision support tool for adaptive management and an educational tool. Linked to this, we'll develop a governance toolbox, which can be used by local partners and communities, as well as organizations along the tourism value chain. We'll develop monitoring methods and guidebooks and hotspot maps for monitoring, but of course that will be with the different organizations that are already doing monitoring. And finally, we'll also look for some practical solutions, in particular for standalone sanitation approaches in areas where there are no centralized sewage systems. Now, for me, it was very important that education is intertwined throughout the program because I think it's instrumental for integration and to ensure multidisciplinarity. And that's why we've set up an education hub that consists of the different lecturers within the team, and we'll hire an educational professional really dedicated to this program. We'll develop or produce a series of knowledge clips that can be used for an international graduate course, but also very much for specific training needs. We'll give out fellowships to Master of Science students, particularly from the regions, to get involved. And we'll work with the Citizen Science app to get these tourists as well as citizens involved, and particularly to build awareness. Now, taking all of this into account, I would like to share some of my thoughts about diversity and wonder. As someone who studies biodiversity, I really have a very deep appreciation for the need of a diversity of species to keep an ecosystem running and to keep it resilient. And that way you can see biodiversity as a kind of insurance policy against the collapse of an ecosystem. Or if you want to think about it in economic terms, it's kind of like a type of risk diversification where you invest in several different sectors and companies. However, within the academic ecosystem, we have tended to be highly dependent on one species of scientists, and particularly one species of successful scientists. And it's a competitive one that gets big grants and publishes a lot. Now, this is not inherently bad, but this strong focus doesn't always allow for a lot of diversity of talents within academia. And I think that in order to take on the quite severe challenges and big questions that we face in society and academia, and really to attain the Sustainable Development Goals, we really do need a diversity of scientists and views. So I hope that we can really broaden our definition of what a successful scientist is, so that more people can recognize themselves in this description, and so that they feel welcome and can thrive in academia. Because I think this really wouldn't harm the quality at all. In fact, I think it would increase our diversity of scientists and would increase our resilience in turbulent times. Now, on a final note, I would like to stress the importance of wonder and excitement and curiosity in science. Because during our work, my colleagues and I have discovered ecosystems, species, and just so many wonders in biodiversity. And whatever your field may be out there, I'm certain there is still so much left to discover, and that you still need a lot of help to do those discoveries. So with this, I would like to stimulate all students here to just go out there to new depths and explore together, because this exploration will lead to novel insights and a better understanding of the world around us. Thank you very much, and I very much look forward to the discussions later on in this session.
Excellent, Lisa. Thank you for this presentation. I have already many questions, but we're first going to the next speaker. So, from Indonesia, she is Dr. Dwinita Larasati. She is from the Institute of Technology Bandung, and she's a lecturer in industrial design. And her design work focuses on sustainability issues and the use of bamboo. So she's really been very much involved in the development of creative economy and creative city organizations. She's an artist and a publisher, and she's a pioneer in geographic diaries, a genre of Indonesian comics. So over to her.
So, hi, good day, good morning, and good afternoon to you all. Um, yeah, as introduced, can I please have my slide up? I graduated from ITB, Industrial Design, then I continued to Design Academy Eindhoven, also Industrial Design in the Netherlands, with a scholarship from IKEA Foundation Amsterdam, and then I continued my doctoral degree from TU Delft in the Netherlands as well. So, in this valuable occasion, I would like to convey a message about transformation towards human-centered development through the practice of inclusive creative economy. In the next 10 minutes or so, I hope these three propositions will build up the main message that I would like to convey. First, creative economy is not a standalone issue. Creative economy is where mainly extraction-based economy, or digging and taking resources from earth, shifted to skill and knowledge-based economy that mainly rely on human intelligence and creativity as a source of income. Second, post-pandemic thinking requires an intersecting mindset. This part will show an example of how community initiatives in creative economy have become an intersection that contributes to resilience. Third, inclusive and sustainable future can be reinforced with institutional enactments. Regulations and policies that come from governments and also from academic and research institutions should drive research and implementations to answer to the SDG challenges. The first proposition, Indonesia, an archipelago contains such great numbers that have become our strength in diversities and resources, but they also present challenges mainly in logistics, access, and eventually disparity. Indonesia still has the advantage of its productive age, reaching up to 70% of its population, and from more than 200 million people, more than 70% is internet users, of which 60% uses social media. If the majority of the population has no equal access to education and health services and infrastructure, while it is able to access all kinds of information, we are faced with another challenge, the ability to choose and use whatever information that comes to our hands. Therefore, it is crucial to ensure that our young people, the productive generations, have the capability to select information for constructive activities. An example of this can be found in Indonesia Creative Cities Network, a hub organization established in 2015 that has connected cross-community forums in more than 200 cities and agencies all over Indonesia. We meet and coordinate at the national level in many places, as you can see here in the slide. The ICCN networks commonly start with forming a community of people with similar hobbies and interests. In many cases, these young people are the ones who realize that they cannot depend on solely extracting natural resources and decide to make a living with their skills that are based on creativity, culture, knowledge, and technology. In these networks, these programs and events have driven various economic activities that mostly provide solutions for the local issues at city levels. The repetitiveness of those activities at most times yield social innovation. The members of ICCN is so diverse. Therefore, we need a common ground in conducting our movements that have become ICCN framework. All members are committed to implement the 10 principles of Indonesia Creative Cities, with keywords such as solidarity, inclusivity, local wisdom, and so on, that comply with the SDGs. We keep mapping and identifying our roles within the creative economy ecosystem and synergizing with different stakeholders. Among the examples is Fashion Village Lab, a collaboration project between the Netherlands and Indonesia in Bandung that started in 2014. An attempt was made to pilot a circular economy ecosystem for fashion industry. This project exercised the practice and implementation of research in comprehending the local culture, creative potentials, industrial competence, and community development. Another example is What is Lab, a collaboration between Dutch and Indonesian designers that promotes sustainable society. It is great to see how concepts of sustainability is experimented and produced as prototypes, showing how multidimensional the subject of sustainability is, and how important it is to be able to contextualize the issues. The second proposition. The world was suddenly at a pause due to the pandemic. Now we are ready to go back and play, but how do we do it? In his recent talk, Charles Landry offered a post-virus rethinking. During the pandemic, we have witnessed the reduction of climate emission, we are also reassessing the impact of culture and art. The digital turn that has been taking place before the pandemic was suddenly accelerated. Of course, we have changed the way we work and socialize, and we miss the urban life. But there is a dilemma of older urgencies. Our communication has mainly become limited to virtual interaction. Those who can afford it go back to driving their private cars. And perhaps the most significant tangible impact is that we end up using an excessive amount of packaging for food and goods that are delivered to our doors. With this phenomena, for this second proposition about intersecting, an example may come from Indonesia Creative Cities Network again. At the beginning of the pandemic, when government had yet to collect massive data and come up with appropriate strategies for relief, ICCN dispatched working groups to assist communities and people within its vast networks. Community members who are mainly active in creative industries have also made use of this lockdown period to and upskill the young people to quickly adapt to the new conditions. In the recent years, we keep shifting to new ways to manufacture and deliver products and services. We direct our research in identifying new opportunities, considering the high demands on health and well-being products and services, organic materials, innovation and education, communication, and mobility sectors, and so on. We keep attempting to create inclusive and sustainable impacts that are maintained by hubs and networks of the closest local people and communities. Academic and research institutions also reflect the urgencies of post-pandemic preferences in products, services, and systems. Prototypes have been produced and are commonly available in limited amount. Therefore, it is crucial to find the most advantageous way to commercialize the findings if we want to make significant contribution to answer to the climate change challenges. Among the efforts of our government's program is making scenarios of future SMEs in mobility, craft, fashion, and food. This will only yield significant impacts if all stakeholders are willing to contribute, which brings us to the last proposition. Reinforcing an inclusive and sustainable future through institutional enactments. At the global level, creative economy has been going through several milestones, all within the efforts to promote creative economy as a strategy for sustainable development. Notable policy recommendations are the ones from U20 Riyadh 2020 about inclusive creative economy and the future of work, and T20 Italy 2021 about creative economy 2030, inclusive and resilient creative economy for sustainable development and recovery. The Indonesia presidency of G20 in 2022, with the theme Recover Together, Recover Stronger, is hoped to build up the recommendation and actionable plans to strengthen the evidence of how creative economy is implemented, particularly in the global south. The Asian Development Bank Institute will also weigh on the subject through Creative Economy 2030 conference in November 2021 that gathers policy papers on imagining and delivering a robust, inclusive, and sustainable recovery. At national and local level, such notions on creative economy are discussed in, among others, a conference at the Faculty of Art and Design, Institut Teknologi Bandung, on fostering creative economy for sustainable development. The West Java province conducts an annual international conference on the roles of creative hubs as an epicenter for inclusive and sustainable regional development. And in Bandung City, a community-driven bill on creative economy was passed in January 2021, ensuring the implementation of creative economy ecosystem as a development strategy. My concluding remarks are derived from the white paper and policy recommendation on inclusive creative economy and the future of work. This document argues that people in creative economy sectors possess three main attributes that provide resilience and capability to adapt to future challenges. They are high-order cognitive skill that yield originality and unique narratives that are personal experience-oriented. The constructive desires of wanting to stand out and be different would drive innovation. Second, technology savviness, which provides agility in combining or mastering advanced technology to deliver products and services in safe and effective manners. Third, interpersonal ability, where people no longer define themselves on their ranks, but on their roles and functions with higher flexibilities. People with disabilities tend to be the ones who would create future works, supported by the elements within the creative economy ecosystem in a human-centered development, amidst the pandemic and other challenges that may occur. With this, I end my talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Dwinita Larasati. Thank you both. Also, thank you to Lisa Becking for the inspiring speeches. So it is important that when we talk about collaboration towards the future, we hear from researchers and educators, and also young researchers and educators, especially who are currently doing it, just like Lisa and also Dwinita. Now, let's gather some questions from students. Actually, I have a lot of questions for these two, but I'm inviting students in this room to ask questions. Yes, that one. Yes, thank you very much.
Good afternoon in Jakarta and good morning in the Netherlands. My name is Haley. I'm from Alaspire Communication and Business Institute. I would like to ask because of the research for Miss Lisa and also from Miss Lita regarding the biodiversity and also the creative academics. And to achieving the SDGs is not the government only responsibility, but it's also our responsibility. So I would like to ask what the role of us, the young generations, that we could help to achieving the SDGs, especially in the biodiversity and also in the creative academy. Because the young generation is the most populated populations, both in Indonesians and also in the Netherlands. So what is the role of us as the young generations that we could help to achieving the SDGs? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That's a wonderful question. Like very much spot on. Tita, I used to call Dwinita as Tita. She's a very good friend of mine. Tita, would you like to take this question before I give it to Lisa? Yep. I guess it needs to be turned on.
Right.
Yep. All good.
Okay, to ask the role of young generation, it's actually a question that you should be able to answer yourselves. Because whatever you do from the time you wake up until you go back to sleep, just count how many contributions you have done, like how many garbage you have spent, how many knowledge you have spread, and so on. But then to take it to a more technical terms, because sustainable development goal is such a wide framework.
Yep.
So usually at the city level, if you have ever heard of it, there's a called New Urban Agenda. So this New Urban Agenda is actually SDG, but at the city level. And then if you can access all the information about it on the internet, it's all over the place. Then they even have a definition of, not a definition, but they tell you what the government can do, what private sector can do, and what communities can do. And as young people, you have the luxury of time, and you have the luxury of being able to make mistakes, and also recover your mistake by learning more. And that's actually your role. Because the examples that I showed you, those ICCN organizations and so on, those are really actually run by young people who don't necessarily listen to the elderlies, and especially I'm from Bandung, I'm from ITB, I teach there. But then because I was also involved very much in these organizations, and Bandung demography is, I think, similar to other demography in Indonesia. Almost 70% are young people under 40 years old. So Bandung is like a city full of young people, or it's like a house full of teenagers, and the parents are outnumbered. So you can basically do whatever you want, but then make sure it's constructive, and then you have to be very resourceful in what you do. So you have to see where the materials is from, you have to learn where things, supply and demand come from, and so on. I think
that's very motivating. I mean, you have the agency and also authority in determining what you can do, okay, to contribute to sustainability. That's really interesting. I'm giving it to Lisa. Lisa, how do you respond to this, to the question of what are the roles of younger generations in contributing to sustainable development?
Well, thanks for that question. And of course, I'm also very happy to hear that you stress particularly biodiversity.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I mean, if you just asked me, I mean, become a biologist, of course, but not everyone can do that. But I would say, really, to what I brought in my presentation as well, is I think it's important to explore and be aware. Because already by knowing what's around you, understanding the vulnerabilities of the ecosystems, understanding the vulnerability of biodiversity, I think you can take that into account whatever route you go. I mean, in your daily life, but also whatever you decide to study or what kind of work you do, that you take that into account. And I would definitely want to stress that it's important to keep exploring and learning. And that's also where the responsibility lies with, let's say, all of us as educators or policymakers or governments, that it's also important to get students involved and provide infrastructure to get them involved and to get more informed.
Thank you. Drupyan, is there any questions from audience over there?
Yes, there is. There's also a question from me. I'm not sure I count as audience, but I'll give it a shot. I just wanted to share one idea. You know, what you see in the Netherlands a lot is that the students are also pushing for more sustainability in the curricula, especially on the technical universities and the economic degrees. You see the students are really the ones asking for change and pushing for change. So I think that's really great to see. And I see one student already standing here next to the microphone, so I'm giving him the floor.
Hi, yes, I am Mark Sprombach. I study at Utrecht University. Lisa, you spoke earlier about how this diversity of scientists is also needed, scientists who are not only focused on getting grants, for example. And I was wondering how we can create that scientific environment that fosters this diversity of scientists.
Thank you for that question. So the question of how to make the academic environment maybe more open or for diverse scientists with different focus. Well, I mean, it's obviously not an easy task because we have been kind of in a certain path for quite a while. But what you do see in the Netherlands is that there is a lot of discussion about recognizing different types of talents and trying to change a little bit the system of valuing and recognizing these talents. And I think that already helps a lot, so that you can, for example, to make promotion or to go up in the academic ladder of, let's say, a tenure track, that your valuation system is not so strongly focused only on publications and grants. I think it's also very much a conversation we just need to keep having within the universities, and that I think also by recognizing that we maybe don't need to have excellence in everything in one person. That maybe as a team, as a department, or as a group, you want excellence in management, supervision, research, acquisition, papers, science communication, but that not one person has to be excellent in all those things, so that you really value all those elements with different people.
Thank you.
Excellent. Evie, can I ask one more question before we hand over back to the Indonesian side?
Yeah.
So I've also a question on the SDGs to Lisa actually, but maybe Dunita can add. You know, sometimes the SDGs are presented as they're all like stimulating and helping each other. So if you achieve one SDG, the other SDG will also be achieved. Some kind of virtuous circle, right? But when I was listening to the story of Lisa, I was thinking maybe there's also trade-offs, right? If we really have this very well protected marine protected areas, maybe people earning their money there as fishermen, you know. So isn't there also sometimes a trade-off between those SDGs, and how does she deal with that? You know, maybe she gets her SDGs, but it goes to the expense of other people's SDGs. Is this a dilemma, or do I see dilemmas that don't exist?
Thank you for that question. So yeah, balancing the SDGs, or I guess just balancing the successes on different sides and different disciplines, really. I think that's very true, and I think in that sense, what I do think is good is that integrated. I mean, already within the definition of the different SDGs is this importance of combining it with different SDGs. So that I mean, there is already a strategy that you shouldn't only focus on one SDG, but it is the combination of the different ones, and that does inherently mean balancing it out. And for example, in the focus where we're looking at in marine protected areas, yeah, there is a tension between economic gains and ecosystem protection. But what we're trying to do is look at it as a system. So where you understand how they do affect these different processes, both the socioeconomic ones and the ecological ones, they do affect each other. And actions on one end have a result on the other. And trying to make that more, because that's quite complex. And I think one of the key things is to try to make that more visible, and more understandable, so that you can, deal with that. But I mean, what in setting up the program, these are exactly the discussions that you have. But I mean, it typically is not that simple in the sense that if you were to only go for economic gains, and you were to say, okay, let's just have lots and lots of tourists, that will ultimately, and there are unfortunately various examples of that, that will ultimately lead to a destruction of the ecosystem for which the tourists originally came, and ultimately has a feedback that is negative on both sides.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So there are real dilemmas. I wish you all the best, Lisa, with those. It's not easy. But I think my takeaway from what you're saying is that there are these interactions between the SDGs, and there can also be trade-offs between this tourism and biodiversity. But it's about making them explicit, making them visible, so that you can help policymakers navigate those dilemmas. Actually. Okay. Well, back to you, AP. I'm sure that you have more questions over there.
Yes, I'm going to respond from the audience in Hopping from Gita Kaur. Thank you, Lisa, for your information. Coral reefs aren't just beautiful. They're the most biologically diverse ecosystems in the oceans. This is a super interesting topic. And by the way, she is a diver. All right. Mbak Tita, now I'm coming back to you. Can you sort of elaborate where is the position of international collaborations in your research, and how has it been enhancing the research itself, and also the maybe upskilling of the research, because Lisa also mentioned about the importance of diversity in the research ecosystem itself. Do you also share the idea?
I'm talking mostly about creative economy and creative industries and everything around it. So I think it is most relevant to position ourselves within the global phenomena of where our strength is. And the recent research I did, we did at the creative economy field, is about informal economy, which is actually play a crucial role in the global south, especially in the creative economy, and they have different definitions if you compare it to other countries. So it's important to actually see where the context is and how would you define yourself in it. So it is international collaboration is important, and because I'm also a member of International Advisory Council for Creative Industries Policy and Evidence Center, we can see how different countries, of course, they have different rules and so on. But then the key is to find a model that actually fits your context and then build around it. Informal and international and global research actually helps you identify yourself and position yourself within the global situation. That's why Indonesia leadership in creative economy is also important in this matter.
Yeah, this is interesting. My takeaway point, by the way, that international collaboration is not intended to make everything the same. Okay, we want to know what each others are working on, and then we want to know whether it works. But if not, then we need to find out our own solution, right?
Exactly, but I find it especially interesting because usually, we are in the global south, but usually concepts, theories, everything that is new to our discipline comes from the West and so on. So the key is how to translate them into your own situation and in your own context. If I take, for example, one word, design thinking. Of course, design thinking starts from phenomena that happen in the West. But then, if we take it to Indonesia, we have lots of situation that actually is different, but then we can learn from the methodology and how you would present your result and so on. So that's where the crucial point is.
Thank you. Dirk-Jan, can we take more questions from the audience?
Yes, I think here currently in the Netherlands we don't have any questions, so if you can take them from the Hop-in or from the Erasmus House.
Yeah, we've got some hands already raised here. Very much enthusiastic students. Yes, you go on.
Okay. My name is Aisha. I'm a veterinary student from IB University.
Go on, Aisha.
Okay, so I would like to ask, how do you handle the pros and cons for your program? And what are the important steps for us? So also, if let's say we also wanted to make a great program, especially international program like you guys. Thank you.
How do you engage with the debate surrounding your program? Is that the question?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe I give it to Lisa. Lisa, there must be a lot of academic debates surrounding, biodiversity, marine biodiversity. How are you engaging with these debates?
Yes, well, I mean, engaging in the debate, but also making certain that you catch all the different views and things. And I think with one of the things that I found very important was to make certain to take time in an early stage while developing this program to talk to people and to meet with people and to hear the different views, because it is very easy, particularly if you've been working, for example, I've been working on marine biodiversity for quite a long time. It's very easy to already have kind of your views and to know your own field. But the whole point is to get a good understanding of what's happening in other fields and also, of course, on the ground. And so I think part of it is patience, a dedication, and a certain degree of enthusiasm and curiosity to take all those elements, to really take the time to understand, to talk to people, to understand what the problems are, to understand what the views are, and bringing it together.
Yep.
And I think what's key in that, and I think that maybe comes again to this diversity in science, is we got the chance to take that time, right? I mean, we got a grant, very generous grant from Canada, the Royal Academy of Arts and Sciences in the Netherlands, to really take the time to bring people together, to build the consortium, and to really, more importantly, build the questions and the approaches. And if that had been a different situation where we really had to produce within a year a data set and a paper and had all these other requirements, I don't think we would have gotten to the understanding that we got to. So I mean, yeah. So in summary, I think patience, dedication, curiosity, and exploration.
Enthusiasm. And you must not rush.
Yes. No.
Okay. Tita is yours now. The same question. I guess,
Pros and contrasts in our program. Work with the ones that are pros and then prove that actually you come up with something concrete. and have real impact to society. And then those who are not in the pro position, then they can see if it's good for them or not. It's basically that.
Okay, thank you very much. So you have to prove yourself.
Yes, just be consistent and focus on what you want to achieve, and then prove yourself with your result. Basically,
That's very interesting. Thank you very much. Dirk-Jan, do you have any questions from Utrecht?
It's going fast, and I want to give people also a bit of a break before we come back at half past the hour. But how I feel every is that on one hand I feel very optimistic, and we hear all those stories about what we just heard about this circular design and about this young movement of scientists. So then I'm like, yes, all the we can tackle all those challenges which are heading towards us. Sometimes I also felt a bit negative or depressed when I heard the stories about the coral reefs, how fast they are depleting, and that actually now with COVID, we're turning the page on COVID, but we're not like seeming to have learned that much, We said always we will build back better, but are we really building back better? So, I have this double feeling. I'm sure that with the energy of Lisa and Lita that we can make this difference. So I really encourage them to continue. But what are your takeaways?
My takeaway is taking away the energy from these students. Thank you very much. Your enthusiasm makes me very optimistic that we're going to have brighter future. Okay, thank you very much. So it also applies to the students who are attending in Utrecht. Thank you very much. Your energy travels here, far away from the Netherlands to Jakarta. Thank you so much. And Dirk-Jan, I don't know about you, but I think I need some coffee to let everything sink in. Do you?
Yes, definitely. And but for those who are interested, please come back in about 10 minutes or 12 minutes. We'll hear more about Indonesia, this new agency that has been created, the National Agency for Research and Innovation. We want to know more about who they are, how they intend to focus and encourage this innovation that we so badly need for SDGs. And we'll have another very interesting discussion. So grab a cup of coffee and see you back in about 10 minutes time.
Thank you very much once again, Lisa and Tita. And thank you very much, students. Thank you very much. We'll see you back at 4:30 p.m. in Indonesia or 11:30 if you're in the Netherlands. I'll see you in a bit.